Many people have an emptiness in their lives, really an emptiness in their soul, and they try to fill it with drugs or promiscuity or all sorts of wrong solutions. Today, let's meet a lady named Gabie who did just that until she had an encounter with God. Well, Gabie, tell us about your background. What did you know about God when you were a child?
Well, I grew up in Peru for part of my...
Which is in South America.
It is in South America. And my sisters and I were placed in a Catholic school. Mm-hmm. So I did know about God, even though I can't claim that I was very interested in God when I was a child.
Did you go to church on a regular basis?
We did go to church on a regular basis, but I feel like it was more of a tradition than really a lifestyle.
So it meant nothing to you?
It didn't really mean anything to me.
When you were old enough to not have to go to church, did you stop going to church?
Absolutely.
Okay, so God meant nothing to you. Okay, right. And I understand at some point in your childhood your family moved to Los Angeles because of a divorce?
Yes. We moved in '78. We moved to Los Angeles, and my mom was the one that cared for us for the remainder of the time. So it was 3 daughters and my mom, and that's who raised us there.
And what was that like, that environment? It must have been quite an adjustment.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was quite difficult. I came here when I was 12 years old, so it's a very delicate age. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it was difficult to try to fit in, and we weren't received all that well. And my mom really did not have much time to nurture us because she had a huge responsibility to raise the 3 daughters. So it was a difficult time, I should say.
Okay, and I understand you got into drugs and things like that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it took a while for me to go that route, but I ended up there sooner or later. I left home when I was 17.
Oh, okay.
Because I just did not feel like I fit in Los Angeles. So I moved to different cities, and I tried out different crowds, and I think I was just seeking like an identity and somewhere where I would belong better. And in that, I got caught up in the partying. I got caught up in...
what does that mean? What do you mean by partying?
Like pretty much living during the night and working, trying to find jobs that would allow to waitress at clubs and smoking, let's say smoking marijuana with friends. And maybe it started off like on the weekends to have fun. But sooner or later, it just became an addiction. I started depending on it. I started finding that I hid behind it. And so I depended on it more and more. So it went from something fun to something that I needed in order for me to have like more courage to do things, sort of like what people would do in drinking, where they will drink to talk to people or to dance better or whatever, something like that.
So, and you got to a point where you were using marijuana every day? Every
single day.
And if you didn't, then you'd feel kind of emotional pain or something?
Well, if I didn't, I would be absolutely too aware of how lost I was. And that was too painful. So I would say that I numb myself in order to function.
Looking back at your life, would you say it'd be fair to say that if you had known God, if you had known Jesus, that if you had had that relationship with the Almighty, that you would have not needed those drugs to numb the pain or to change your feelings?
Well, looking back, I'm 100% sure that I wouldn't have needed anything like that, because His perfect love casts out fear, and that's exactly what I was trying to suppress. And so I know for a fact.
Okay, so tell me more about this lifestyle that you were in before you met Jesus.
Well, it was very transitional. I did not have deep relationships. Everything was very shallow, very vain, very empty. And even though I had a lot of favor, what people would call luck, I had a lot of luck in getting good jobs, in having a lot of opportunities.
But jobs like what?
Like jobs that paid a lot of money, jobs modeling, jobs that other people were dying to have. They would come my way. Or to be in a commercial, in a national commercial, things like that would fall in my lap. But I would find that it was a dead end. It was exciting for maybe a week, 2 weeks, but then it was a dead end.
So everything you were trying was empty at the end of the day?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I understand that you got to a point where you were hanging around with people that you look back and you're almost thankful that you didn't die in the process.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think of every time that we got in a car while we were under the influence of marijuana and going to look for more. I think about the times that I took drugs, not only marijuana, but even cocaine, from people I did not know. I think of the times that I got into cars of people that I did not know, of men that I wouldn't see again. And I look back and I can't but see the love of Christ in my life at saving my life.
You know, sometimes there's movies from Hollywood and TV programs from Hollywood with a lot of dirty, sinful stuff and stuff. And it sounds almost like this is like a scene from one of those movies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't really hold back in anything. I mean, there was promiscuity. There was living with people that were not my partners. I didn't believe in marriage. I came out of a home that had a broken marriage, so it just seemed to me like not necessary. Why get complicated? Plus, it's just easier to move out once you break up. Why even go that route? But it was really, just kind of a way to protect myself from further rejection. It's really what it ended up being. But you can't see all that when you're in darkness. You just can't see it.
Did you get to a point as far as the cocaine use that you were using that on a daily basis or regular basis?
On a regular basis, not on a daily basis. Believe it or not, it was expensive for us to afford, thank God. But it was on a consistent basis because we would sort of treat ourselves to it on the weekends. So.
Okay,
That's how it was.
and so you were moving around from city to city, you were doing all these things, but you ultimately kept going back to Los Angeles, I take it.
In a way,
Yeah.
I kept going back because my family was there. And sometimes I went back willingly, and sometimes I went back unwillingly through an opportunity that led me back. You know?
Okay, all right, now how did you come to find out about Jesus Christ?
Well, I will say that on my last trip back to Los Angeles, I was nearing my, 30 years old, and I think I started just absolutely not fitting in with the crowd that was at the nightclubs and dancing and out, and I started feeling like just absolutely empty and scared, to tell you the truth. So that led me to start reading like self-help books, because I felt like unless I got some help, I wasn't going to be able to get out.
Okay, and what did that lead to?
Well, actually, the good thing about reading these books was that there was always a mention of a higher power. And every time I would see the higher power mentioned, I would stick in God or Jesus.
So in other words, the things that you had learned as a child that meant nothing to you at the time started to come back to you when you were starting to think, and maybe I need some help from a higher power.
Yes.
Or the higher power.
Yes.
Oh.
And so that's kind of what started the road to meeting the Lord.
Okay, and then what happened?
Well, then what happened was that I ended up in a situation of having to live alone, which was something that I avoided like the plague, because it really was just scary to me to have to come home and be alone. And then actually one of my girlfriends started dating someone who knew the Lord. And so all of us, we kind of mock her, to tell you the truth.
You started mocking the girl, not just the one who was dating, not her boyfriend.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we just thought that she would say that they went out to eat something, and then he would bring his Bible, and we would think like, what? Like, how low have we gotten that we're actually going out with someone who's going to bring a Bible to a date?
Wow.
That's how we used to see it.
Yeah.
And but she's the only one that was starting really to look a little more radiant than any of us who were reading the self-help book.
Oh, okay, yeah. Good. All right, then what happened?
Then what happened was that, to tell you the truth, I think that the more that I started to find out through the self-help books, I started really falling into a new level of fear that led me into suicidal thoughts.
Okay.
Which was a very, very scary, scary place to be.
Huh.
And actually, how I met the Lord was in the privacy of my own home. I was on the floor in a fetal position, scared to death. Scared to death. The fear was so thick in the room, and I cried out to the Lord. And I said, if you really exist, and if you really, everything I've heard about you, if it's true, you know, you need to come through now because this is more than I can handle. And in that moment, I look back now and it's like the arms of God reached out to like take me in that moment. And all of a sudden there was like there was light in the room, there was love in the room, there was peace in the room. And all of a sudden the whole fear just absolutely left the room. I was able to get up, I was able to get into bed, and I was able to sleep. And then not by a couple of days later, I accepted an invite to go to a church. And that's where I heard about the good news of Jesus Christ for the first time. But now it was already like a welcome home because it was hearing about some news that had already happened. So you see, it was reverse for me. So I must tell you that it's true that the more that you've been saved from, the more that you will love because it's been 11 years and I've never had anything to look back to.
Do you think you would be dead if you had not met Jesus?
Oh, absolutely. I should have been dead over and over and over and over again if I hadn't met the Lord. So the Lord rescued me. The Lord knew that I was at the lowest point, that if it wasn't because He, you know, took over and grabbed me and rescued me, that there was absolutely no hope in this world for me.
And I understand now, jumping forward, this was 11 years ago that you met Jesus Christ, and now jumping forward, you've been married for 7 years, very happy in the marriage, and you're even involved in teaching women Bible studies and so forth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, I just feel like however long I live, it will never be enough to give back. And I think that if I really want to say thank you to the Lord, there's no better way than to encouraging, you know, other women to really reach out and really, you know the love of Christ in their lives. So not only do we do that here, by embracing other women who are, you know, in that path, but we try to go out to other countries and reach people with the love of the Lord.
You're even returning to your native Peru to do this sometimes.
Yes. Actually, last year we had an opportunity to go to Peru 3 times. And it's just amazing that God would allow me to go back and for Him to allow me to show forth in reality, like how the Lord has changed my life, how He has changed my heart, how He has changed my mind, and the words, my everything. And so it's just impactful to see a life that was so in pieces, and how He can put it together to the point of even being able to use it in the lives of others.
What Gabie experienced and the joy that has filled her heart is something that any of us can experience if we call on God and His Messiah, Jesus.